Hello my friends, and a very warm welcome back to my painting channel. And in this video I'm going to be painting a sort of deserty kind of theme. We're going to revisit the desert theme that we did a little while back, which was one of my most original and first videos that I posted on the channel. And we're going to kind of do it in a little bit more of a sci-fi kind of way, and we're going to paint this on some of my Infinity models. So I have a set of Ariadna models here, where me and a friend of mine went halves in a box. So I'm going to paint these guys up using this really cool sort of desert sci-fi style. So first of all, I'm going to start by using Dark Rust 302 for the man in the group, because we've got a group of 1 male, 2 female. We're going to just going to paint this guy up using a nice, really great sort of looking dark skin tone. So we're going to use this Dark Rust 302 to begin with, and this is going to give us a nice dark brown base color. So if you followed the channel in any other videos that I've painted, you'll see that I've used this color a few times as a base tone to paint these great dark skin tones from. And from there, what we're going to do is we're going to build this up using a slightly lighter tone, and we're going to build this up into a nice sort of even skin tone that is going to really pop, and it's going to match and sort of work out really well with a lot of the colors that we're using here as well. So once that's dry, we're going to use brown sand from Vallejo. We're going to use this just across the trousers and of course across the arms as well. Now this is going to be the base color that we use for our sort of desert camouflage kind of feel. So the desert camouflage that I'm going to use for this one is a much lighter color and a much quicker sort of tone than what I used originally. So this one's going to have a little bit more of this desert sand sort of color, which is a more sort of orangey tone to it. And it's going to give us a little bit of an option and choice when it comes to painting sort of desert tones, giving us choices in which way we'd like to paint. So this one's going to be slightly different. So that's all I'm going to do here is just paint across all of the trouser area and all of the sort of top area as well, sort of in the arms, the long sleeve parts, just using this one tone here, just using this one color. We're going to try to make this nice and even, so we're going to use nice thin down layers of paint just to get this to cover all of the areas of the model that we want, and so that we get this flowing off the brush onto the model in a nice even fashion. Now I'm going to use my size 0 brush for this, which is my go-to brush as well. This is a brush that I use for a lot of different things. Then we're going to use a khaki color. Now the khaki color is going to be what we base our sort of lighter tones. So whereas we've got this great sort of sand color for the base where we're going to use the camouflage, they're going to use a khaki color for things like the boots and the armor, because we're going to separate all of those into a different sort of light kind of sandy color, if you like. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because it just separates and splits up those colors so that we get different colors and different areas of the models that we can look at, parts that will really pop and stand out and look amazing on the model. The last thing I want to do is paint everything using the same sort of color and then having all of those colors sort of blend into one. So what we're going to try and do is use all of those earthy tones and some of the techniques that we've used through previous videos to kind of make this model really sort of stand out and really grow into its own, so it has its own sort of feel to it, even though it's going to be a desert theme, kind of like what we've done previously. So I'm going to paint the armor, the boots, and also his little sort of military cap here as well. We're just going to paint across all of this, and again using a nice even tone and a nice thin down paint. From there then, I'm going to use Leather Brown from AK Interactive, and I'm just going to paint over all of the sort of leather bags and leather packs and things like that using this color. And this is a nice dark brown. It's not too dark like the Dark Rust 302, and if you don't have this color, you can always just use the Dark Rust 302 if you want to base all of the leathers and build up from there. I have in some of my other videos when I've painted used different ways of painting leather, so there are a couple of different ways of painting leather in my videos, and if you'd like me to make one dedicated just to painting multiple different versions of leather, then just let me know in the comments below, and I will do what I can to make sure to create a cool little sort of beginner's guide to painting leathers just for you guys. So that's all I'm going to do is just paint all of the leathers, the backpacks and all of the bags, and all of the leather straps, just going across the arms and also just across the back as well, and up over the shoulders. As you can see, there's a few different straps on the model and on the miniature as well. So we're just going to take our time and be careful not to get this on all of those areas that we've painted previously. So what we're going to try to do then is just paint a few of the darker areas using a tenebrous grey. Again, if you don't have this, you can just use a nice black tone from Vallejo. That will equally work out quite nicely. Like I've said previously, I use this tenebrous grey just because it takes to the miniature in such a nice, quick and easy fashion. It sort of just rolls off the brush onto the model, which makes it really great paint for painting onto these sorts of parts. So I'm just painting the weapon, so as you can see, just painting the metal parts of the gun, and I'm just adding a little bit across where the hairline is as well on this particular model. Once that's done, we're just going to use an orange brown, going back to the Vallejo, and then using the orange brown, I'm just going to paint across a little bit of the front part of the handle of the shotgun, because this guy is holding a nice beefy shotgun. So we're just going to paint a little bit across the front on the handle, and we're also going to paint across the side or the back handle as well, where both of his hands are holding on to this bored-in shotgun that he's got here. And again, we're sticking with these earthy colours, but we're kind of making them slightly different. Again, like I say, just trying to make sure that they do look a little bit different. From there then I'm going to use flat earth, and using this flat earth we're just going to start to use the very tip of the brush, and we're going to use a random pattern kind of style to just pick out some of the areas where we think this sort of camouflage area is going to be. Again, if you want to see a few different guides, I have a few really cool videos on my channel about how to paint camouflage and how I paint camouflage, and it's a really fun way to paint your miniatures, because not only is it relatively easy to do, it looks absolutely fantastic when it's done as well. It really does look the part. So as you can see, I'm just using the very tip of my size 0 brush, and I'm just planning out a few random patterns just across the arms and just across the legs here. So this is the darker part to the camouflage. So whereas we use that really cool sort of sand color, that's going to be the main tone, and then this is the darker color. And we are also going to use a light color as well, just to break this up a little bit and to create a really nice camouflage sort of effect. And this is all going to be sort of mixed together in a really cool fashion. So for the lighter color, I'm using a medium flesh tone. So this is a nice light color, and as you can see already, just by using that very tip of the brush and doing the exact same thing as we've just done with the darker tone, you can see that this is having a real cool effect on the camouflage already, and we've only just begun, we've only just started. So we have this base color, this really sort of nice sandy tone, then we have the darker color then using that flat earth, and with this sort of medium flesh tone, this is giving us that light highlight, just creating that little bit of a sort of tone and texture and depth to this camouflage pattern that we're doing. And what I'm doing with this lighter point is I'm using the very tip of the brush again, just trying to be as careful as possible, and I'm painting this across the top area of the darker areas that I've already painted. So we planned out the darker parts of the camouflage, and then as you can see, I'm being very specific about where I place the lighter points. You can see me doing this just across the arm here, and you can see that I'm just, again, using the pattern that I've already created, and just building that random pattern, a random tone, just across that area as well. And that's what's given us this really cool broken sort of stripy desert kind of camouflage as well, and it's creating a really nice patterned effect that, again, as I say, is so simple to do. Now going back to our dark rust 302, what I'm going to do, again using the very tip of the brush, I'm now just going to start placing dots in a random place all over the camouflage that we've just created. Now I'm not going to go too wild and create it with loads and loads of dots covering over too much. I'm just going to try to create, as I said, using the very tip of the brush, just trying to create some small random patterns that breaks up those sort of wavy camouflage lines. And the cool thing with this is, once this is on the model, this is really going to give out that cool looking sort of camouflage, that cool sort of desert effect. Again, if you've seen my previous desert camouflage video, you'll see that I only place this in sort of threes. So we're placing this in threes in sort of smaller amounts, whereas on this one we're going to go a little bit more sort of full on, and we're going to add this in a lot more sort of dots and a lot more places, so that this creates a much more a much more extreme sort of pattern then, if you like, a much more sort of interesting one to look at. So as you can see, just placing these in random areas. Some are bigger than others, that doesn't matter. They don't have to be in any specific pattern. It can literally be as random as you like, and place them all over and things like that. You can see I'm just dabbing the brush, just dotting the brush around, and it's creating this really cool sort of tone, this really cool effect. Now once that's dry, we're then going to use bone white, so we're going to use a really nice light colour, and that's all we're going to do is, using the tip of the brush again, we're going to look at where all those dark brown points are, all those little chips that we've painted, and we're just going to go across now with this bone white, this nice light cream colour, and we're just going to add these dots on top, and this really does make the pattern pop. So we've painted those random sort of wavy line patterns, then we've placed these dark dots on, and it looks cool. But honestly, once you place these lighter tones, these lighter spots on top, it really brings that pattern together, and it really does make this pop. It makes this really stand out and look amazing on the models as well. It looks fantastic. So just take your time, try to go around and place this on all of those darker points. So try to place this on top of all of those dark little spots that you've placed, and it will really show through and really make your models stand out in a really cool fashion. Now it seems like we're doing too much here before we put the wash on, and that is a possibility, but what we're going to try to do, we're going to try to tie all of those colours back together using a wash, but we're not going to use the wash on its own. We're actually going to add a little bit of water to this time. So what I've got here is I've got soft tone, because soft tone is very, as it says on the tin, it's very soft, it's very easy, it's very light, so it doesn't darken the model down too much. What this will do, if you use a 50-50, so half of the tone and half water, this will allow you to manipulate and move this wash a lot more around the model, and it will then only sit in the recess points, but it won't darken the model down too much, you see. So if you just use it straight out of the pot, it can darken the model down, and it will darken all of that hard work that you've done on the camouflage, whereas doing it this way with the water, it's not going to darken it down, it's just going to sit in those creases. Now once that's dry, you're going to go back to the Dark Rust 302, and we're going to use the Leather Brown from Vallejo. And what we're going to do now is we're going to place a small amount of the Leather Brown into the Dark Rust 302. So to build this skin tone up, that's all we're going to do, is we're going to use 3 parts of the Dark Rust, 1 part of the Leather Brown. Nice and simple, so a 3-to-1 ratio. And then we're going to start picking out the details on the face. So things like the nose, the eyebrows, the chin, the cheeks, as we normally do when we're painting faces and painting the character. Now once that's dry, we're then going to use 2 parts of the Dark Rust, 1 part of the Leather Brown. So it was a 3-to-1 at first, now we're using a 2-to-1 this time. And that's all we're doing is, as you can see, using that Leather Brown, we're starting to build the highlight up slowly. So this becomes a very smooth transition into the skin tone. And the reason why we're doing it this way and we're making it so slow is because if you put too much of the Leather Brown in, it kind of stands out too much and you lose that nice smooth transition. So after that then, you're going to use 1 of each. So we've got 3 parts Dark Rust, 1 part Leather, 2 parts Dark Rust, 1 part Leather. Now we're going 1 part Dark Rust and 1 part Leather Brown. And you'll see then, as you paint this way, you start to build this really nice smooth transition, and that's what will create a more natural sort of skin tone. As I say, if you go too extreme and just go straight into the Leather Brown and you don't give that the chance to sort of blend through with this darker colour and build up in the right way, you can in turn end up finding that your skin tone will be too bright and too garish and too extreme. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to water down the khaki, so I'm just going to add the khaki with a nice little bit of water. So again, half and half, so I'm adding 1 blob of water to 1 blob of paint. And then I'm going to use the stippling effect, which is just using the edge of the brush, the very tip of the brush, and just dabbing the brush across the armour. Why we're doing the stippling effect is because we are going to try to create a little bit more of a pattern, or a little bit more of a sort of a tone or texture to the armor. We don't want the armor to just be flat panels. I want it to kind of look like there's a little bit of texture, a little bit of tone there. So I'm just using this technique and just building with the stippling effect, again across the cap, across the armor, across the sort of boots and all things like that as well. I'm just going to paint this up in this sort of fashion. The cool thing with stippling is it doesn't matter if you're leaving some of the color below showing through, because that adds to that texture and that tone that I was just talking about. By using the stippling effect, it will create that tone and give off a little bit more texture and character to the model as well. So it's always worth using these different kinds of techniques when you're painting, because it gives you a really cool looking effect on your model. You can really see now where the wash has sort of sat on the arms and legs of the model, and you can really see sort of how well the wash has sort of tied those colours together, but without darkening them down too much. So we don't want it to really sort of be too bright and over the top. We want it to sort of tie those colours together, and it's just worked out really, really well on this one. You can really see how sort of nice those colours have toned together. And again, you can see I'm just sticking with the stippling effect, this stippling tone just across the boots. And again, we're going to do the same thing across like the knee pads and all of those armoured bits that we painted with the khaki originally. It's a nice, easy, straightforward effect, and it's something that is quite simple to do, but it gives off a really good effect in the end. Now we're going to continue our stippling effect by using an AK Interactive Light Earth colour. So again, if you've watched some of the videos that I've done previously, you'll know that this is another colour that I've used, and I find this to be a perfect step up in highlighting from that base khaki colour as well. So this becomes a really great sort of colour to really start to highlight the armour with. And again, using that stippling technique, we're starting to build up a lot of the texture and a lot of the tone just across the top area of the armour here. We're going to do the same thing again as what we've previously done by doing the knee pads and the hat, you know, and all these different bits as well. And it's going to really create a good sort of looking, textured, sort of beaten up, sort of worn out kind of armour effect as well. It's really going to look the part when it dries down. So as you can see, I'm trying to be very careful as to where I place this on the hat, creating some sort of scratchy motions and stippling motions, and just creating that sort of effect of tone and texture, as I've been saying, and just trying to build up in the best possible way that I can. Again, I know I keep saying that I'm using the very tip of the brush, but it is important when you're using a nice small brush like a size 0, when you're using the very edge of the brush, you have a lot more control over your painting. So you're not painting with massive blobs of paint, you're painting with small bits of nice thin paint, so that allows it to move onto the miniature really well. And when you're painting with a very fine detail brush like this, it is very, very controlled, and it gives you a much more control when painting your models as well. So once that's done, we're going to use Vampiric Flash. So this again then is the next automatic step up in terms of highlighting, and this is really going to make the panels of the armor really stand out, and it's also going to tie them together into this really cool sort of deserty kind of effect and color as well. So we're having this kind of khaki and light sort of khaki color added in with the desert pattern, and that's going to create this cool sort of, as I say, sci-fi military kind of effect on this particular miniature. These Infinity models are really, really great. They are metal models, but they look fantastic. The details that they have are really, really insane. So when it comes to painting them, it's really, really good fun trying to get the most detail out of these models as you can. They are quite small as well, so they're not like the Games Workshop 32mm sort of heroic. They are quite small, so some of the details do require you using a small detail brush, but yeah, they're really, really cool models. As you can see, just using this Vampiric Flash, just being a little bit more careful as to where I place it, so that we get this nice little highlight boosting through. Again, once more, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that painting leathers is something that I enjoy to do, and there's a lot of different ways of doing it. And in this video, we're going to use a mixture of the leather brown and the deep brown colors as well from the AK Interactive. Now this one we're going to paint a half and half again, so this is one blob of each, and again being very careful using the very edge of the brush. We're going to start to pick out the details on all of these leathers, and as we start to build these up and start to pick these out, these are going to start to grow into a more orangey sort of leather tone using this, and again that's going to tie these earth colours together, but it's also going to allow the all these different areas to stand out in their own different ways on the model, so it shows that you've paid a lot of time and effort into all these different details and all these different parts of the miniature. So again, just using the very tip of the brush, as I say, just picking out all of those little details. You can see with my brush strokes and the stippling effects, just how much we're starting to build a lot of the vibrancy coming back through. So we're then going to go in with just the deep brown on its own. So this is going to be the nice highlight tone. And you can see that this has a really nice vibrant red colour to it. So this is sort of a reddy brown colour. Has a really nice vibrant tone, and this is going to allow the leathers and the backpacks and things, as I said earlier, to really stand out on their own, but tie all of these earthy colours together as well. So it's going to create a really nice sort of overall earthy kind of pattern for us, and an earthy kind of tone out of the model. So yeah, just taking our time to build everything up. Thank you as well for all of your patience while waiting for me to upload this video. I know this one's been a little bit longer in the makings. I've been a little bit busy with work, but I've also been away with my youngest son as well. We've been away for a sort of weekend while he plays his rugby games and things like that, and he's had a great weekend, so it's taken a little bit of a longer than normal to get through to the videos, but I hope that this one is equally as good as the ones that I've made previously, and I hope this one makes a really good video for the channel as well. So yeah, we're just building up all across here. Like I said, I like to show a lot of me painting, just because it kind of gives you guys a little bit of an idea as to how I work with the brush strokes and the stippling effects and things like that. I'm not the kind of YouTuber that just flashes through a 10-second clip and says, paint this, paint this, paint this, and you'll get this at the end. I like to really take my time and paint for you guys, so that you guys can follow along if you want, or just enjoy watching the painting. You know, it's a really satisfying thing to watch it sort of all come together and all sort of build up as it goes. It's a really lovely sort of lovely feeling to watch. So I'm just going to use a little bit of the medium orange then, just across the handles of the shotgun, like I did earlier. I was saying about the sort of lighter sort of wooden effects on those, and then I'm just going to use a little bit of gunmetal just for the silver areas. And for the silver areas, as you can see, there's a few little clips and bits just across the leathers, across the back, little sort of metal, almost sort of like buckles and things like that. And then once you've done that bit, if you like, you can also then just dry brush, as you can see, just a little bit of the shotgun across the top, because it almost kind of adds to the character when you've got a weapon that's painted sort of black, that if it's been worn and used, that the weapon itself will sort of in turn gain scratches and look a little bit beaten up. All in all, using all of these techniques, this is what the models will look like. So we have the sort of desert camouflage style here, this sci-fi style, the way that the khaki colours and tones have come through as well. And you can use this in sort of your own interest in an individual way when you're painting these kinds of models and stuff like that. So you'll have to let me know in the comments below what you think of this particular desert camo, if this one was better than the last one, or even if the last one was better and you preferred the other one. Let me know if you think that the desert camo actually suits the Ariadna set as well, because I know that they normally do a lot of jungle camo, but I wanted these guys to be a little different. So yeah, all in all, that is my models done, that is my Ariadna done, and that is a desert camo revisited. So yeah, let me know what you think. As always, my friends, thank you so much for your time, for your patience, for tuning in, for watching, for your comments, and for your all-round positivity and awesomeness. I really do appreciate everything you do here, and I love hearing from you, so please get in touch. Take care, my friends, and I will see you on the next one.